Yep. Good morning, everyone. So last session we learned about So previous session we discussed about function returns and function anonymous functions and arrow functions. We learned about anonymous and or. Yeah. So is it audible to online people? Is it okay? Right? Yes, right. So in the previous session, we discussed about working with anonymous function, anonymous functions, and we learned about arrow functions. So I explained one simple concept of immediately invoked function expression, right? So what is the purpose of anonymous functions? Where anonymous functions are used? Callbacks. Anonymous functions are used in callbacks. And what is arrow function concept? Arrow functions purpose. So arrow functions are used for writing function in a shorthand technique. You can write function in a shorthand technique by using arrow. So that's what we can do, right? Next important after understanding that, so we have another option, that is we will discuss about what is a function closure. What is a function closure? These are simple concepts. Actually, people make little bit complicated about them. So these are simple things to easily understand and handle, because in interviews mostly they ask these kind of questions. So people are confused and they think some complex information is there about this, right? Actually, what is the meaning of function closure? So the function closure concept is nothing but, so closure is a technique where so inner function can access the value of outer function. That is a simple closure actually. So closure is a technique where inner function can access the value of outer function. So actually you should know that it is not just about inner function. So actually any outer variable accessed inside a function is known as closure. That's what many people don't know actually. So generally closure means people have a wrong idea about that every time regularly. So closure is a general programming concept. In this programming concept, what happens in a closure? Generally, the values outside the function are accessed inside a function. That is a closure mechanism actually. Some programming languages don't support that. Some programming languages, they don't allow closures. But JavaScript allows. For example, suppose I am declaring So in a script, so I am declaring a variable x equal to 10. And we are writing a function, some print. And this function is going to print console. So console.log, it is going to print x. So this is a closure. This is a closure actually. That means where is x? Is x present in is x present inside print? X is not present inside print, but you are able to access that x and use it here. Then it is a closure. That means actually it is in global scope now. So you are accessing some value which is not inside a function. You are able to access inside a function. This is actually closure. So this is the concept of closure technique actually. But in interviews, little bit more complex is generally. So they ask different queries. Like suppose we have a function inside function. Suppose we are having a function inside function. Let's open the project here. So now here we are writing a function. So we are writing a function. And let's name this function as outer. In this outer function, suppose you declared some variable, some x equal to 10. You have another function inner. This inner function wants to access document.write. I will use x equal to the value of x. So now is it accessible here? It is accessible here. Why? Because usually the function, so the function outer, so can print this variable x, can use it. It is accessible to inner also, because for this inner, this is a global one. And anything you declared is accessible to inner function. So this is considered as a closure only. This is considered as a closure. That means here I am printing here outer. So I am accessing here outer. So accessing outer. And when you run this, you can see this outer, only outer is executed. Only outer is executed, it is not printing anything. Because outer have a function called inner. That means now can I access inner function here? Can I access inner function here? We cannot access that inner function here because it is a part of outer function. So you can access only the outer function. Then what we do, we call that inner function inside that outer. Inside that outer. We don't do that here. Then what that inner is doing, it is executing and displaying the value. So this is a closure technique actually. A closure means the value of an outer scope is accessible to inner scope. Not only that, now this is a simple closure actually, right? Generally, meaning of closure is this. Understood? Is it necessary that a function should be inside function? Not necessary. Many times people have a wrong definition. Like closure means they will say that a function inside function. No, a function with inside function is not a closure every time. Generally, closure is a mechanism where outer scope contents are accessible to inner. That is a closure. You can have a function inside function. Now in interviews, what they ask is, Generally, in interviews, they ask that, okay, if I have a function inside function, inner function can access the value of outer. How outer function can access the value of inner? How outer function can access the value of inner? So for that, we implement a technique. That means actually the question asked is the value of inner function accessible to outer? Accessible to outer. Accessible to outer. Is it accessible to outer? So accessible to outer is not possible. Is it accessible to outer? The value of inner function is not accessible to outer. No. But how you can make it accessible? How an outer function can access the value of inner function? So you can implement so by using function return. You can implement by using function return. By using function return, the value of inner function is accessible to outer. Right? How? For example, see. So here we have x equal to 10. Now suppose here we have var y is equal to some 20. Now I am accessing, so y is equal to 20. This is in which location? This is inner. Now is it y accessible to outer? Outside, if I want, is it accessible? So it is not accessible outside, because anything you declared in a function is function scope. It is not accessible outside. Then how you will make it accessible outside? So by using return, you can do that. By using return, you can do that. So what it can do is, actually this inner can return this. This inner can return this x and y. That means now what happens? This inner is going to return. That we can access here, document.write. What to write? Document.write. So you just print inner. That means we call the inner function. What inner function is doing? Inner function is returning a value. Actually, what you can do, you can declare a variable result is equal to, we can access inner. Am I right? We can access inner. So now you can print that result. So we'll say document.write. So what to print? Result. That means it is going to, outer is going to print the result x and y. This mechanism is called as closure. Closure means the values of outer scope are accessible to inners. That is a closure. But in interviews, they ask how to access the values of inner scope in outer. That is also a part of closure. But closure is not this. Closure means outer, inner. So, but if inner have to be accessed by outer, then it have to implement this technique. We call this mechanism as closures, right? That means by using that technique, so we can handle. So outer function, and the outer function is going to have a variable x, which you can access in inner. Inner function have y, which you can access in inner, but y is not accessible outside. Then how to print both x and y? So we will make inner to return x and y, so that outer can catch that and it will use it. That means even the function inner ends, its value is still available, because we learnt return keeps the value available, so that value you can use inside outer. This is the mechanism of a closure concept. Closure. It can be in another way also, right? Means closures are used in different points, syntax actually. Suppose we have a function called outer. So we have outer so value. It's a parameter. Now this is the parameter which is having outer value. Now what we are doing is we are defining a value inside it. It is accessible to this function. Suppose we are writing another here, we are using return. It is returning an function called inner. It is returning a function called inner. It is returning a function called inner. So that means outer function is returning an inner function. And what this inner function is having? This inner function is returning. So it is returning. This inner function is returning some details. That means, for example, it is having inner value parameter. So that means we will print both. What is it? So outer value, and we will print inner value. So here I will say this is outer and outer value, and we will call it as inner, and inner, and we will put as inner value. So we have inner value. We are printing that, returning. That means the is outer value present in this inner scope? Is outer value present in inner scope? No. Outer value is present in outer function. Na? Outer value is present in outer function, but it is accessible in. The outer value is present in outer function, but it is accessible to inner. This is a closure. That is a closure. So closure is a technique where the value of outer is accessible to inner. Now you want to print here. That means we want to print document.write. We will print outer. We are printing outer. And it is expecting outer value. How do we pass the value for inner? So I will pass, suppose, so message outer value. This is outer value. That means it is so function inner value, and this is outer value. It is returning a function. How you can return both inner and outer values? Tell me the point here. How you can do that? See what result it is returning. It is returning function. This function is returned. That means it is returning as a function. It is returning a function. I want the result of that function. The result of that function is string. Na? The result of that function is string. How it can do? So the return value of which function? Inner or outer? Bhaskar, which value of return you should invoke to a variable? Return value of outer you should store in a variable. So that means in here we store a variable where some result is equal to what? Which function? Inner function. Inner. Outside the function only we are writing now. So here outside the function only we are printing. Even so we are printing in a variable. Suppose where. So result is equal to what? What is that? Outer. Outer is returning a string. Outer is returning a inner. That inner is returning a string. So do you want me to print? So we are printing. So document.write. Document.write. What you are printing? So we are printing result. We are printing that result. Then what it is doing? It is printing the same. Now what we are doing, suppose this outer have an value. What is it? Suppose I defined as outer value. Outer value we are defining. So that outer value and what you are defining. So this result is a function. Into the function we are passing inner value. Inner value. We are passing the inner value into that here. So you see outer value and inner value. So that means the function outer, the outer value is stored in a result. What is that result? Result contains this function. Function is expecting parameter. Na? So we pass that parameter. Okay. After you pass the parameter, that is accessible here. That is accessible here. Now next step, what you have to do? We have to call the inner function inside outer. That means this is result. Result have a function. Result is itself is a function. Na? That result, it is returning a function if you have seen. Right? That function we have to define. So I will show you the point here. Suppose I am writing like this. See, this is one point. Suppose I am passing the value like this. This is result. That is the result we have inner. Suppose we are printing the value like this. Document.write. Document.write. So we have outer. outer, in that what we are doing outer. So it is expecting some outer value. Now in this outer, actually it is returning. So this outer is having a type is what? Function type. Suppose I defined a function like this and I added inner value. So inner function value. And we have outer function value. Let's keep a break here. We are keeping inner and outer function value. It will work. You don't need to declare a variable, right? So Bhaskar, what you said, it's okay, right? That is declaring that. But without that, we can access. How we can access the outer value and inner value without declaring any variable? We can do. How to call them? So simple. This is the function. In that function is returning a function now. How to call any function? Again, parenthesis. You learned how to declare a function in an array. How you called a function inside array? Index of 0, 0 of function name. Same concept here. So it is going to access that inner and outer function and it is going to display, right? So what we are doing, we are calling the outer and we are passing outer value. That outer is returning one function. We will call that function. In that function, we will pass. This is inner function. This is outer function. Understood? The outer parameter is passed inside it, which is accessible to inner function. Inner function is accessible inner value. Inner function accessing inner value, and it is printing both outer and inner value. This is the mechanism of accessing. That means you can do in this way, like syntactically. You can write like this. What we have to do, we have outer and value, and in that we can access so inner value. This I will give as outer value and inner value. You can define like this. That is what the function we are dealing with here. Outer value and inner value. Actually, this outer value, you can see this outer is having an outer value and inner value. This is the outer function definition. This is the function inside its definition, right? This is the another mechanism. So we call this mechanism as closures. Understood? Actually, in interviews, different types of syntaxes are given to you. And they will ask like, okay, now how to access outer and inner functions? How do we pass data of inner function to outer? I showed you all technique. How we can access outer in inner. How do we access the inner value in outer? If inner is defined with a return, the value of inner can be accessed in outer. Because even when the function ends, that value is available, which you can use in outer. So this is the mechanism of inner and outer functions. This is called closures. So technically, closure is not just a function inside function. Because many times people have this definition. Closure means function inside function. No, it is general technique of accessibility. It is an accessibility technique. How the members of outer scope are accessible in inner. So that is the concept. But additionally in interviews, because they ask how to handle So outer and inner combinations, this type of confusion will be there little bit, but it is easy to understand actually. First, to call outer function, we will use outer and parenthesis. It is expecting parameter. That outer function is returning another function. In that case, we use another parenthesis. In that return, that is returning sum. In that they can have another return function. You can go any number of levels of inner and outer combination. And finally, the value of inner must be available to the outer. We can access and use outer. That is what actual. So this is the concept. Now here, this is one example for function closures, right? So I hope everyone understood that. So what is a closure and how to handle that? Because out of 100 JavaScript interviews you attend, 80 interviews, they will ask about closures. 80 to 90% interviews, they will ask you what is a closure, how the closures works, right? That you have to understand. Next important, after function closure, we have another option, function generator. Function generators. This also a simple concept only actually. Function generators. What is the concept of function generator is, for example, how you can make a function in such a way that it can return more than one value. How you can design a function which can return more than one value. Means my question is simple here. Actually, I want a function demo. This function should return one. Return some one value. I want it to return more than one value. So return 2. So return 3. Is this valid? Is this valid? Function should return more than one value. Is this valid? It is not valid. Document dot write. Suppose I am printing demo. Now what happens when I am printing demo? It is going to print 1. After that, what happens? 2 and 3 are not written, because return is a jump statement, right? So, but important is there must be so many values to return, but we will access them in a order or random whenever required. We can access them whenever required. So we can define a function to return more than one. So we can define. So technically, so what is it? Last statement execute. I think, who is this Manikanta? I think you haven't understood the concept of return we learned. Huh? So I hope you haven't understood the meaning of return we learned. We learned return. Return means what? Whatever you write after return is not reachable. Na? I told you, unreachable code detected, right? So after this return, what it will have do? So I think, who is this Manikanta? You still have an idea that return means returning a value. So return means not returning value. It terminates. If it terminates, then what it will do? It will execute the first one and it is going to terminate. Right? But it should not terminate. It should allow to access the all others depending on requirement. Until the requirement, we will access all of them. So generally, a function generator, usually a function generator. So function generator can return multiple values. So multiple values. Can return multiple values. So a function generator can return multiple values. So it can return multiple values. So it allows it is used to configure an iterator. It is used to configure an iterator. What I told you about iterator means. What I told you about iterator means function generators are used to configure iterators. Iterator means iterator is a software design pattern. It is a software design pattern used to access elements from a collection in sequential order. This is the definition I given. I told you iterators and loops. So iterator is a software design pattern used to access elements from a collection in sequential order. And these iterators we saw for off. Those iterators are actually created by using generators. Iterators are designed by using, means what difference I told you between iterator and a loop? Loop, we have to define where to start and where to end, right? But iterator, we don't need to mention where to start and where to end. Then how it knows where to end and how it moves to next? To move to next, we need a counter I++ or something. How an iterator moves to next? Because it uses a generator inside. Generator actually, usually generator comprises of it contains value. It contains done. So it contains, generator usually contains next. Generator usually contains return. These are all members of a generator. What value will do? So if you remembered when we designed for var item of collection, right? This is an iterator na? It is an iterator. So what item contains? What item contains? Item contains the value of a collection. In that collection, what value is present? It is present in item. That is returned by value. Generator have a value. That value will return the value present in that collection. So that means this value is going to read. This value is going to read the first value and store that value in which location? Item. After storing that, done will return true or false. Done will return true or false. Actually, this value is any type, means string, number, boolean, any type, but this is boolean type. That means suppose there are 3 values in collection. It reads the first value. After reading the first value is stored in item. After that, done will return false. Done will return false. Done returns false means what? It is not done. That means there are some more items. If there are more items inside collection, done will return false. If it returns false means now the iterator knows that it is not end. Understood? How iterator knows that it is not end? Iterator knows that it is not end based on done. Iterators gets the value. Iterators verifies is it finished or not by using done. If done is returning true, that means there is no more value. This is the final value. If done is true, then iterator will stop. Okay. What is next? What is next is nothing but next is going to execute the next statement. That means it is going to proceed to next. After it reads the first, and it will proceed to next. That is managed by a method called next. So that is the reason we don't need an counter. Why we don't need a counter? Because it automatically moves next. It automatically moves next. When it will move next, when boolean is false, when done is false, it will move to next. In between, if you want to stop, that is what we are using in for and all, return and break. Then this return will be used for stopping the iterator in between. Without finishing the iterator, you want to stop the iterator, then you have to use a return. So these are all internally present in an iterator, and actually that is the work of a generator. So that means actually for you are writing like a method. Na? So for you are writing like a method. Na? Actually it is a generator. It is a generator function. These generator functions are very important for building libraries. When you are building libraries, those libraries are used for handling arrays. They are used for handling objects. So when you are designing a library for handling, so even you have learned map, na? Array have a map method. That is also a generator. You learned about find. Find is also a generator. You learned about filter. Filter is also a generator. That means what all these are doing. So they are reading all the elements one by one, moving to next. And what find is doing, if the condition satisfied, then it will use a return. So stop. So, right. So, and it will, if condition not satisfied, it will move to next. How it will move to next? Based on done, true or false. That is the nature of generators. Actually, these are all generator functions. So usually developers use these generators to create iterators. That means sequentially, if any content to be accessed. So, and you want to control that dynamically, then we have to depend on these generator functions. We use the generator functions. So how we can manage the generators means handle these generator concepts. For example, see how a generator is created. Generator actually, I will give a point here. Generator function is configured is configured with function, and function have an asterisk. Function have an asterisk. It is defined with function asterisk. That means generally how the generators are created. Generators are created function asterisk, and you have a function name. That means actually that is the generator name and what functionality it have to do. This indicates that it is a generator. These are function generators. And usually how they will return any value, they don't use return keyword. That means generator function will return a value, So by using, it will return a value by using what? It returns a value by using yield. By using yield operator. Actually, it is a special type of operator. In JavaScript operators, I told you special operators. In special operators, we have ternary, and we have another one. We have ternary operator, we have delete, we have instance of, we have void, right? These all are ternary special operators. In that special operators, we have this yield also. Yield is also a special operator. It is used to yield and return the result of any function. Right? So generally, that is the concept of function generator. How the function generator is designed. For example, this is not possible, no? Then what you do is we create an asterisk. Now here we will put not return, we will put yield. Yield 1, another one, yield 2, another one, yield 3. Now what we have to do is we have to create an object for this generator, for generator function. So you create an object for generator function, or see what I am doing, document.write. So demo, what it will do? It is a generator actually. It is a generator. It's an object generator. Generator object. You can store in an object, or you can simply write as next. You can see next. What next is going to do? It is going to return an object. This object contains two details. One is value. Value returns what is the value in the first place. And it will return another option is done. It will return done. Done indicates, is it end or not? Is it end? No, because it is only first value. Na? It is only first value. So for example, I defined next 3 like this. I am defining. So it is false. Next 2, it is false. It is not the value. Values you will see later. Next is just a function. Now what happens here? It is going to return that and display. Let's do one thing. Means actually this is a generator object. And see, generator object contains. So generator object usually contains this 1, 2 or 3. Right? Usually what we do, for example, we create an obj. Object is equal to demo. That means we created a generator object. And what I am doing here, so document.write. I will create here, so the value. How do we get the value? So obj.value. So obj is what? Next. Obj next dot what? Value. And here we are printing, suppose the value, another one. Another one is done. Done, I will get here obj dot next. Next dot what? Done. Next done. It will return true or false. I will put a break here. And you can see that it is going to return. It is going to return the first value 1 and done is false. Now what I am doing here, I am writing another statement. Another statement, then it is going to read value 3 and true. So why it is 3 and true? So because whenever you use object next, this means another one is executed. Another one is executed, right? For example, I will just use like this here. I want to just print the values, right? I will print the values. Next, only next, one time I am defining. It is printing the value 1 and 2. Why? Because if I use again object dot next, next one will execute. That means done is returning true for second one. If I use again. So you will put like this here. That means you sit here like this. You define and you see value 1, 2, 3. Suppose what we have to do is, if I write this next again, automatically next one will execute. Next is going to execute the next one. So the next is going to access. So to make it more clear to understand, this is okay. We are creating a generator and we are returning it. Okay. Now observe carefully here. For example, I am defining using a console. Console.log obj.next. You see what it is going to return. So console.log, let's open the inspect. And in the console, you see it is an object. And that object is returning value 1. And it is printing done and value 1. Done is false. And it is value 1. So I will execute this one more time. Okay, second time. And you can see now it is value 1 and 2. Value 1 done false. Value 2 done false. I will execute one more time. Now you can see this is value 3 done false. Right? Now I will execute one more time here. And you can see it is done true. It is undefined. Until it is true, you can execute the statements. It is true, you can execute the statements. That means now what it is going to do? Undefined. Undefined means there is no value. That means done is true. That is the last value to execute. So that is the technical option. Right. So this is basically how we can manage. This is a simple option to understand. So it is a generator which is going to yield multiple values. It is mostly used by JavaScript developers to create iterators. Iterators which can sequentially access and return different functionalities. For example, suppose now this is, so here this is yield. Yield what? Suppose I return a function. This function is going to return. It is going to return, suppose statement 1, something like this. It is yielding. So here a return. It is returning what? Statement 2. And here we have yield a function. So this will return as statement 3. Statement 3. Like this we are defining. Now what it is going to do here? It is going to execute. Done false. right? And value is a function. All these indicates they are function type. So that means if they are function type, these are all function. They are all function type. That means it is next object. It is value is a function type. For example, I access dot value. Value is what type? Value is a function type. Function type value it is. That means the value print statement 1. Value can be any type. Value can be any type. It can be string, a number, or a boolean. It can be any type. That means value is a function type. Value can be array type. Value can be string type, right? Now there is no more here, so it is going to print statement 1, 2, 3, and it caught an error because there is no value. The fourth one is not there now. There is no function to execute. That means it is going to access and it is going to return that value statement 1, 2, 3. Suppose this function is expecting so a comma b, and it is returning a plus b. A plus b. It is using a comma b. It is returning a minus b. So it is returning a minus b. And it is a comma b. And it is returning a multiplication c. So a asterisk c. That means in the value you are passing two values, 10 comma 20. In this we are passing so 20 minus 10. So we are passing 2 comma 5. And you can see these are the results returned here. What is it? B na? Yeah. B, right? It should return A, B, right? It is going to return that. That means it is handling complex functionalities. It's not just returning a value. A set of functionalities you defined, which you need to access in a sequential order and return that functionality. Then we can configure this technique. That is what actually the function generators are. A function generator is. Function generator. And usually here what we are doing is after this next second one. So we are using obj.return. Obj.return. So when I am defining obj.return 30, 20, and last one is stop. Why? Because return is used for stopping the iterator. It is used for stopping the iteration. It is going to stop the iteration. Now this will not execute. It terminates, then it is not going to execute. Right? That is the function. That means how it is going to manage. So it is going to handle that this way. This is return. That means this is an error now. This is error. Why it is error? This is not defined. It is not defined. So return allows you to terminate. Value allows you to get the value. The value type in a generator can be any type. It can be string, number, booleans. It can be function with returns, anything. So usually developers use these for iterations. For iterations. If you are creating iterations, you can handle them. Actually, we can do a lot of things. That means in the next level, I will show some other examples. How we can build a library. Module, function. One example I will tell you. Inbuilt libraries, how they are built. Right? But this is the concept of a function. Generators. Generally, can a function return multiple functionalities like this? Not possible. That means, for example, this demo function I am using return. It's not possible. Only the first one it will return. How you can make a function to return all these functionalities? So by using what? Generators. Generator will yield. So, and it will return multiple functions. That is the concept here, how we can do. Now I will give you one simple task. You tell me how to do. How to read all these one by one there without this. Next. We are calling so many times now. So how we can access them all the yield values one by one. Nothing but inside that you can write a loop. In a function generator, you can write loops again. In a function generator, you can read the loop, write the loop. Until how many times that loop have to generate? Until done is true, na? Until you have to write a condition. Until done is true, it has to perform. Right? So that means sequentially defining. So roughly, suppose I defined roughly here. Suppose I am writing here a simple variable where some x is equal to 1. And what I am using yield 1. Right? Suppose I am using x plus plus. That yield x and x plus plus. Suppose I am writing a condition while true. Right? It is going to execute some statement. So console.log. Console.log, what is it? X value we are writing. What does this means? Is it going to do anything? So here we are using obj.what next. Obj.next. It is not returning anything. Tell me how we can manage. So increment the value. So this here we are incrementing the value. It's not there. Actually, one of another point people tell about this is it is used to create infinite loops. Infinite loops means that goes on continuously executing without ceased your application. Generally, you can create infinite loops. You can create infinite loops in your application. So, but usually when you create infinite loops using while and for and others, they will cease the application. That means application will stop. So then how we can create an infinite loop without ceasing the application? So that means it can keep on reading the values continuously until you stop it. Means until you use return. Until you use return. Right? How it can stop continuously. Right? So write a program and show me. Just try this now. Means I want this to yield x. Okay, it is yielding x now. It is yielding x. So what we do? We have to print, what is it? Document console dot what? Console dot log obj dot next. Next, what it is going to do? It is printing 1. Right? It is going to print 1. Now, if I write a condition, what is it? While true, then what should happen? X plus plus. That means x value is incremented. You can see this is only one time executed. Suppose I am calling this one more time, console.log next, and you can see this is also again one only. How you can create a loop which can continuously increment. Suppose I defined, so this x plus plus, okay, x plus plus. After x plus plus, I will yield x again. I will yield x again. That means what it is going to do here, after x plus plus, we are yielding x again. So in the inspect, let's see here. So the console, you have an error. So this is not an error. You see, it is yielding 2. Understood? That means it is assigning the value of yield to this. Now what should happen? I want this to repeat. Tell me how to write a loop. Just roughly try. Increment and assign to yield continuously. How you can do that? Increment and assign to loop continuously, how you can do? How you can manage that? Try. So here you need a condition while true. If increment, I'm just writing one condition here. You try that. If there is no more value, what it will do? If increment is not equal to null. If it is not equal to null, it will assign the increment value to x. This x value is again assigned to yield, na? Right? Else what we have to do, we have to use x plus plus. Then what it is going to do is, it is going to print the values here. It is going to print the values. How many it is doing? 2. It is going to print these 2 values. Now I am accessing here again another value. Copy. I am accessing next here. It is going to print the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these values continuously. But when I put here after this first and second, if I give here next as suppose 5, After first and second, next as 5. That means now what happens? The 5 value is passed into this yield. That means the yield is passed with 5. Then it will come with 6, 7, 8, 9. That means you passed 5. It will continue from 5. So that means the next value will be 6. It will be 7. It will be 8. It will be 9. So if I pass it here, so if I pass it here 10, so that means after 1, 2, it will be like 12, 13, 14. Right? It is going to increment, add the value and add this. This is not required as of now. Later you will see. Usually these type of iterations are used. I will show you with the backend database. A small point I will tell you. You know, generally in databases, what we do, we generate a unique ID. That means primary key we call as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that. Generally what happens, suppose a particular record, up to 10 records already data is stored. From 11th record onwards, I need to store the data. Then my next number will be, starting number will be with what? You know this, actually, this is already there in an ordered list. You know, OL. In OL, type is equal to what? Number. And this OL have a start option. Start, if you say 5, the numbering will start from 5. It is an iterator. It's a generator actually. Understood? That means it is starting with 5, 6, 7, 8 like that. Depending on what you define. It yields that and return that. List item is returned starting with that particular number. These kind of iterators are very much created by using what? Generators. We call this as function generator. Understood? We can use the function closures. This is very important. And the function generator. Generator is another point. One more is there, asynchronous functions. Asynchronous functions. How you can create asynchronous functions. That we'll see tomorrow. Right? These two are enough today to understand. So, and remember, in almost all interviews, these questions are common. Even at experience level, they ask about closures, arrow functions, recursions, generators. You should know about them. Okay, now? Then in tomorrow's session, we will discuss what are asynchronous functions. Then we can go into OOP concepts and all. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue.